Hi, Karina.
Hi. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Barbara.
I see it's nice out in California again.
Yes, it is. Another nice day. Some people would say it's too hot, but I love the excessive heat like this. So it's in the, where we live, we don't get, I mean, you know, the true San Diego weather is beautiful at like 70, which is what most people get. We're inland, so you get in the 80s, upper 80s.
Okay, all year?
And we, no, but we're always warmer than they are at the coast. So
you don't get any snow then?
No, we don't get any snow. I wish. We have to go visit snow in Utah. So each year we go to Christmas. And last Christmas, there was no snow in Utah. It was so sad. The only chance to go.
Come see me in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, yeah, there's snow there, right?
No, yeah, not right now, but in the winter we get snow.
Yeah, well, everybody's looking forward to spring and summer's coming, right? Everybody's warming up everywhere.
Yep.
Even up there in Canada, they're warming up finally. So I bet they're thrilled.
I guess.
So I'm going to give just a couple more minutes. Any questions before everybody shows up?
I don't think so. I got my free stuff today, though. My On Guard stuff with my order.
Yes. I'm so glad you got your order. Mine was delayed. They sent it from Georgia. I have no idea why.
Oh, mine came there, too.
From Georgia? Yeah, they must have been, that must be where they're stocking all the On Guard stuff. And I was surprised because usually my orders ship from Utah and get here really quickly. So my order's taking longer than usual. And I had to go to the store and buy laundry detergent, which was really annoying because I don't know what's in that stuff.
I use, I just got my last shipment, I got the On Guard laundry soap. But I was using Persil, Persil. It's good stuff. Maybe they can't get it out there.
I'm severely allergic to perfumes, fragrances and stuff, so I have to be so careful. And it's weird because I've been doing research. I keep seeing these products, and especially anti-aging products. As you get older, you worry about that. The doTERRA stuff, which I love. And I saw this commercial for this other one. I was like, yeah, I wonder how it stacks up to doTERRA. And the first thing I had to do, I go in for the ingredients. I'm like, perfume. Why do they put perfume in everything? I mean,
what about Tide Free?
We must have perfume all over our body. They know how bad it is. They know it affects hormones. They know it causes headaches. I cannot believe it's in everything.
Have you tried the Tide Free?
Tide Free, it's still got a chemical in it that I'm allergic to. Yeah, because I tried Tide Free, All Free, Cheer Free. At one point, the Granny's Old Fashioned laundry detergent. I did fine with that, but it didn't clean that well. And BioClean did really good. I used BioClean for many, many years when my kids were younger, really good for diapers. And then I found the On Guard one. And so with that one, most of the time it's fine. It works on everything. And then for really severely smelly loads, I will, like musty stuff, like towels and stuff, I'll add a few drops of lemon oil and it takes away that musty smell.
I used OxyClean, the powder. That works really nice on whites.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's also got a chemical in it.
Yeah. So, is there a doTERRA product that does what bleach does? My husband has, this is going to sound gross. He's clean, but his socks are filthy.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. You know what? Guys just have to learn to throw away their socks after so many uses because they get brown and gross. And it's just like, it's just say goodbye to your socks. Get some new ones. They're not that expensive.
That guy does not throw anything out, though. I have to go through his stuff. And then I throw it out and I say, I don't know where it is. It's probably in the wash. I lie.
The problem is we want to make these all white and clean, right? We want our socks to be white and clean. But every time you bleach them, you strip away a lot more of the fabric. So they last less time.
Okay.
But, you want them white. So I told my husband, wear black socks, please. It was just easier. I don't want to see, the stains and stuff on it.
Yeah.
So ideally we do that. So welcome everybody. This week we're going to do meal prep. And so I did something really cool, guys. I'm going to show you what I did. And I'll post my picture of when I was preparing it. But one of the things that we're making today that I'm going to show you how to make is this. And you're going to see what this is later. Can everybody see that? Let me bring it up a little bit without dropping it. Anybody see it?
That looks good.
So those are cut up veggies. And we're going to discuss what that is. And then I'm going to put that in the oven. And that's going to be my, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm going to freeze those for my little breakfasts in the morning. So I'll tell you how to make that. That's one of the things we're doing today. So let's start out. I'm going to start by sharing my screen and we'll go through the presentation. There's a bunch of recipes, which who doesn't like recipes, right? So how do I do this? Oh, there we go. I had it.
I think it's just you and me. I invited everybody.
Yeah, yes. Some people, sometimes they get a lot of people and sometimes they don't. And I really don't know why. It's okay. However many, a lot of people like to watch this afterwards because they know that tests usually can't make it. And there's a lot of people that just, it doesn't fit in with their work schedules and they're, a lot of them have kids, so it doesn't fit in with their kids' schedule either, So that's always also a problem. Let me see. Can you see that? You can't see the slide yet, right?
No.
I'm trying to share my screen. Slideshow. Why wouldn't it? There we go. Okay, just clicked on the wrong thing. You can hear my chickens in the background.
I was wondering what that was.
Chickens and guineas. I have chickens and guineas out here. We get our eggs fresh, really fresh here.
Wow. I
know, it's pretty cool. So anyway, let me go through this real quick. Okay, so we're gonna do our art of meal prep. And anytime a recipe asks for something in the recipe, you can always use some essential oil. And I will caution you, when you use essential oil, less is more or less can be too much. So don't use too much. I mean, honestly, I put like a drop of lime in a whole entire batch of salsa that I made and just gave it that extra kick. Made it taste really good. But if you put in a few drops, it might be too much, a little overwhelming, right? Same with like black pepper. So if you like to use the black pepper essential oil because you don't like the bitterness of black pepper, actual black pepper, which has a bitter taste to it, the black pepper oil doesn't have that bitter taste, but it still has that flavor of black pepper. So, but again, just use a drop or two. Don't go overboard. And on some of these, you have to be really, really careful in how much essential oil you use. So we'll discuss that as we're going. So I think I know all of you guys. Maggie, thanks for joining us. I'll try to speak a little bit slower. I know English isn't your first language, and I'm so glad you're here. So if you have any questions during this, I do want you to use the chat feature and feel free to chat in or even to talk. Don't be afraid to just unmute yourself and ask questions. I appreciate questions. It makes me feel like I'm doing better, right? Okay, so one of the things that we want to, when we're talking about meal prep, what we're talking about is preparing our stuff ahead of time, like for the week. And a lot of people think, like, I don't have time for that. But actually, you don't have time not to do that. Because when you prepare a bunch of meals at once, or even prepare portions of meals ahead of time, it saves you a ton of time later. And one of the biggest things about meal prep that we notice is when you're able to prepare your meals ahead of time, you think more carefully about what you're preparing, and so you make healthier decisions. Because you can imagine you get home from a hard day of work, and sometimes you're just tired. And if something's not prepared, what do? Oh, I think there's a frozen pizza in there somewhere. I'm pretty sure I saw one, right? That's what we're doing. And we could reach it for something a lot more healthy if we already had something prepared that we could easily grab later. So we want to prepare whole meals that we can then freeze or refrigerate and use, on the fly, right? So we can store our meals lots of different ways. A lot of people like to use sandwich bags, freezer bags, snack bags, Tupperware. And I really like, those new containers that have come out. Like I have most of my meals in these glass containers that are like this big, maybe 4 inches square or 5 inches square, and they're glass, and they have these tops that just kind of clip on, plastic tops that clip on. Those are awesome because if I want to heat it up, I can just throw that right in whatever I'm cooking, because I don't like to use, first of all, I don't use a microwave. I use an oven, so I would heat mine up in the oven. But even if you're using a microwave, it's better to microwave in glass than in plastic, so you don't get any of the chemicals into your food, right? So, those glass things, great investment. And they stack so well in the fridge and in the freezer. So those are the different things that you can use, right, to prep your meals, and just think about how big a portion you want. So not only are you prepping a meal ahead of time, but you're also picking your portion size. So then you get a kind of a feel for how much should I really be eating. So if you're on a diet, take what you normally eat and just take away 10% and see how you do with that. Because if you whittle away your food little by little, that'll help you eat a little bit less. Because unfortunately, a lot of us grew up in this time when our parents said, finish your plate. I remember this as a child. My parents said, you took it, you finished. And that was a really bad habit because it led a lot of people to have weight problems, because who's going to leave a bite on a plate? Think about it. You're not really hungry. You don't need that last bite, but it's there. And what are you going to do with it? Stick it in an itty bitty micro container? No. So what do? You eat it, because that's how we've been trained. We just don't know any better, and we do eat it, and we don't like to throw away food, right? So if you can plan your meals better ahead of time and figure out what you should be eating, instead of just making a meal and whatever lands there, or whatever, however much is on your plate, you'll eat, right? And start portioning these out for you and your kids. And my mom was great at this, because as a kid, She made a lot of our meals ahead of time. We did a lot of pasta dishes. She made American chop suey, I remember, mac and cheese, homemade, tuna noodle casserole. And she would just freeze them. And when we wanted a meal, we should just pull them out and thaw them out, or cook them. So that made it really easy for us to grab meals as a kid and not have to just go for TV dinners and that really unhealthy stuff, right? So what happens when you meal prep? You do actually get more free time. So if you take this overall, at first it's more because you're going to spend time doing this, right? But later you're actually going to save a lot of time. You're going to have a lower food bill because we do waste a lot of food. We eat portions bigger than we probably should. A lot of us can't eat everything that's on our plate. We're throwing away a lot of food, right? We're forgetting things are in the fridge. So when you prepare your meals and you're a little bit more conscious of that you've prepared meals and you have your containers all nice and neat in your fridge, it makes it easier for you to grab things. Because when you prep them, you'll label them, right? But you're not going to do that if you're doing one thing. I'm not going to label a container. I get my leftovers after dinner, throw them in a container. I don't take the time to label them. But if I'm doing, 8, 10 meals at a time and freezing them, I'll get out my label pen and start labeling things, right? So that'll be better, right? You get a healthier variety. So when you plan your meals ahead of time like this, you'll look for recipes because it's much more interesting. Who wants to meal prep what? Pizza, hot dogs, burgers? You don't meal prep those things, right? Instead, we look at other things and say, hey, I could probably make some of these. And it's probably something you wouldn't make because it takes a long time to make them. But if you can make it and then realize that's going to get you 10 different servings, now that time is worth it. And that, like I said, it helps with the weight management. So now let's go into detail on how meal prepping can change your life. So how to meal prep? We talked about the benefits of meal prepping already. So what's one thing you can never get back?
Time.
So time. We can't get time back, right? This is all of our time spent is time gone. And we do have a limited supply of it, right? It's not something that is going to be endless supply. It is limited. So it doesn't pause every night so that we can make our dinners, right? And the meal prepping takes time, like we discussed. And at first, it's going to take more time, and you'll get really used to this. It's like anything else. You develop this habit. So at the beginning of the week or something, you say, okay, on my day off, I'm going to take an hour. I'm going to make quite a few meals that I can then utilize later this week. And so when I'm tired after work, I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat. And, ideally, when we freeze things, it's great because you can grab your meals and you can just eat one a week, let's say, right? So one a week. That way you're not eating the same thing every day because we also like our variety. So most preppers take a time during the week that they schedule as their meal prep time. So figure out what time works for you. It doesn't have to be, whatever day works for you, whatever time works for you, and maybe set aside an hour. It doesn't take that long. Set aside an hour to save yourself that hour in little chunks later in the week or over the next several weeks, right? And one of the things I've noticed is as I started doing the meal prepping and started kind of thinking about this, I started paying attention to recipes. I watched the doctor's TV show. They had a cool recipe there. And I got it on my phone. I'm sitting there with my phone taking a picture of my TV screen because I'm like, oh, cool recipe. Click, I go get that recipe. There I go. Super simple. And that way I can try something that I probably wouldn't have tried otherwise. I'm not somebody that would, get out my recipe book and say, hey, I think I'll make some recipes today. That's not going to happen. But if I have a purpose for doing it or a challenge, so I'm going to challenge you guys to prep one set of meals for this week. So sometime this weekend, I want you guys to just prep one thing that you can then eat throughout several weeks and freeze it. Okay. So everybody, that's my challenge to you guys. And one of the things when you're meal prepping is don't be held back by what you have in stock, what's in my kitchen. Instead, do your prepping at a time before you go shopping, figure out what you want to make. That way you can go to the store and buy the things that you need for that recipe, specifically for that recipe, right? That way you get more variety in your life because more variety in our food it'll help our guts, it'll help our diet. There's a lot of different things in different foods. And when we start eating the same thing over and over again, which is the tendency, when that happens, would you get out of here? Go, that thing's noisy. Anyway, where was I talking about? I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, when you get in the habit of eating the same thing over and over again, you're not getting that, variety of nutrients that you really need. unless you start, spicing things up a little bit. And, that's where a lot of people are starting to say, hey, you know what, I'm making scrambled eggs, I'll add these other vegetables, or I've learned to use, flax powder in things or whatever to try to just change things. I just found out that nutritional yeast makes my popcorn taste like cheese. I was shocked. It's awesome. So another thing that's supposed to be healthy and that you can try if you wanted to get a little bit of kick out of your popcorn, because it's just kind of boring without the, because we're all eating it low butter. And low butter really is a lot like no butter. It doesn't have much taste, honestly. So I do like a little bit of kick in my popcorn. And so I've been adding the nutritional yeast, and it makes it taste cheesy, which is really good. So also when you meal prep, you do save money. That we talked about that because you get in the habit of, buying what you need and then cooking what you'll eat. You get a feel for how big is a portion for you. What is your average size portion? And if you're trying to diet, again, take your average size portion, figure out what that is, and then try to cut it back just 10%. That's not a lot. And, if you could eat 10% less all year long, you'll lose weight. It'll be a nice slow process, which will be really good for your body. So, you know how they say, don't go grocery shopping when you are hungry, right? So what, I think it should be maybe hungry and prepared, right? Or don't go shopping when you're hungry and unprepared. You want to go prepared and ready to buy what you need to buy. That'll cut out, buying these temptations that are out there that we see because we've got a definite plan in our head. So when you have a plan for the week, kind of what you want to eat that week, then it'll make it easier for you to shop without falling for all the marketing and stuff that's at the grocery store, right? But that will, again, it'll save you money. It'll save you time. If you know what you want in the store, you're in and out fast. You know what you want, you go to the things you want, and not because those are the only things you always buy, which is a lot of our tendency nowadays, right? Go to the store and say, hey, these are the things I always get. Instead, you want to plan your meals and go look for some other things, but look for them in recipes. Look for nice, healthy recipes and say, hey, you know what, I would eat that. I'll do that. And that's where we can switch things over, because a lot of us think that we can't have bread in our diet if we're dieting. That's not true. There's nothing wrong with the bread. It can be in excess, but if you balance your bread with other things, it's great. So, you take your bread and you put tomatoes and onions and a little bit of cheese on it and something like that, kind of like bruschetta or something like that. That's great. Very healthy, right? So those are some things, that you can plan on, putting in your diet. Now, the current standard of most Americans is really composed primarily of processed food like stuff. I don't even know what to call it. Food like stuff, right? And it may not be that people are addicted to the junk food culture, but simply really addicted to how easy it is, right? That's what we're addicted to. We want things to be easy, convenient, and that's just kind of our generation. And that's why we eat the way we do and why we shop the way we do. And it does take a lot of time and energy to cook your meals every day, because let's say I was going to cook a meal each and every day. We all know what this takes. What does it take? Half an hour, sometimes more, to go and get out there. You get out all your supplies, you get out your cutting board, your knives, your veggies and whatever. You get all this stuff out to make one meal. But if you can make multiple meals at that one time, it's not going to take you much more time. It's kind of like my philosophy on kids. Once you have 2 kids, it doesn't really matter how many you have. It's not much more work per kid. The first 2 are kind of hard, but then after that, as I started having kids, I'm like, yeah, it gets really easy, and it's really 2, 3, 4, 5, not much of a difference, really. So that's kind of my theory on children too. And this is kind of the same thing with here, because there's a lot of things you're doing anyway. And so, if you can do it, basically we're doing it in bulk. This is how everybody, gets things done efficiently in our society. We do it in bulk, right? So, naturally, when you are starting to prepare your foods in advance, you're going to choose healthier options, because we know that we want healthier options, and some healthier options actually look really good and tasty to us. I mean, I'm seeing this on screen right now, and that looks pretty tasty to me, actually. There's a lot of really good stuff in there that I'd probably have if somebody brought it to me, and that's the problem. If, I would be perfectly willing to eat vegetable and fruit trays all day long if somebody cut it up and brought it for me and it looked all beautiful and appetizing, right? Have some grapes and some apple slices, pieces of orange, no seeds in it because that's just too much work. Some little piece of watermelon. I could nibble on that all day. I would love it. Maybe some cut up eggs, all kinds of really healthy food, but it's a lot of work. And so a lot of times we don't take this time for ourselves. And so that just kind of gives you the idea behind this is why, this is why we do it the way we do. And, in the health field, they talk a lot about meal prepping because it does help with weight control. It does help. Again, you can weigh out your food if you really want to be that controlling on it, or you can just try to figure out what you normally eat, what you're comfortable eating. And then if you're trying to lose weight, just scale it down a tad. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. There's no need to go hog wild on these diets. Those aren't effective. They aren't sustainable. So if you want to maintain good, healthy control of your body, which is more important than the actual weight, then you just slim things down little by little. And when you are prepping your meals and putting them in containers, it shows you exactly how much you're eating. And then you can take more control of that and make sure you don't go up. And then if you want to lose weight, you can go down a little bit. So according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the average American has experienced a 23% increase of daily calories between the years 1970 and 2008. So that's over 500 more calories a day. And I'm pretty sure at 500 calories a day, that equates to an awful lot of pounds in a year of actual weight gain. And it's not necessarily accurate to listen to your body to say when it's full. We all know it takes time. If you eat your meals slowly, we know if you eat meals slowly, you'll start to feel fuller. Some people, especially when we're in a hurry, and as a mom, oh my gosh, I did this all the time. It's like I'm trying to eat, before the kids have to be somewhere. And so I'm just like shoving food in my mouth. So I have to be really careful that I don't overeat because I can, simply because I'm just shoving food in my mouth as fast as possible because I have to be somewhere. And that is a tendency for us to do in our busy worlds. And that may be a combination of reasons such as, our body is telling us this and mistaken signals, more because we have poor diets. There's malnourishment. A lot of us are dehydrated. I know it's hard to believe, but we don't drink a lot of water. A lot of people don't drink a lot of water. And then a lot of us are having trouble sleeping. And all these things do affect our body. And meal prepping can really kind of help with all these things to kind of stabilize everything in your life. So you want a healthy weight maintenance. That's what we're looking for, right? Oh gosh, my battery's running low. I hope I can make it through this. Okay, so brain food. Now, research has proven the strain of always making decisions that strain has on our brain. I mean, we have a lot of decisions to make nowadays, and this is probably one of the biggest problems we have nowadays. We just have too many choices. There is such a thing as too many choices, and that is now. We have a lot of choices. We're overstimulated. Our brains are exhausted trying to keep up. Behavioral psychologists have focused on the concept of willpower, which is explained, kind of work like a muscle. As you use it a lot, it begins to fatigue. So, if we're constantly having to have willpower not to do this and don't do this, and we shouldn't be doing that, and we actually begin to fatigue that brain power. So that it kind of explains why people will choose to splurge on junk food late at night. We've been great all day long. We did wonderful. We ate a nice, healthy breakfast. We snacked a little bit, wanted some vegetables and fruits during the day, did a really great job. And all of a sudden night comes and it's like, oh man, I want a snack. I've been good all day long. So what do? We reach for the most unhealthy thing right before we go to sleep. Very big tendency. A lot of people do it. And that's why you've just spent all day doing a great job, but it's hard to maintain that willpower throughout the entire day. Or if you're doing it, sometimes for a week, and then they'll binge one day because they go a week with that really great willpower, right? So their willpower gets exhausted. And that's where meal prepping comes in. So you take away that decision making. You don't have to make that decision because you've already made that decision earlier in the week. And that way you won't cave into those things because you've already said, hey, this is what I'm going to eat. This is what I've prepared for myself. So I want to share a recipe with you. Oh gosh, where's the recipe? I've lost my recipe. Where did that go? This is the recipe I just made, so I really want to show you guys this. Actually, brain food. Oh, okay. So pardon me a moment. I seem to have misplaced something. There it is. Okay. So according to American Chemistry Council survey, the average U.S. household throws away $640 of food per year. And I don't know about you, but $640, and actually we probably throw away more in my household because we've got the teenagers too, and I bet you they do a lot of this. But we throw away a lot of food, and I'd rather spend that on something cool. Like $640 is a good amount of money. And more than half of all households are throwing away food every week. And that's concerning, considering how, in this, a lot of those households are poor and don't throw away any food. So it's us people that, have a decent amount of money, we're surviving, and we have a tendency to throw away food. I think we all do. And fortunately, when you plan your meals, that's going to help prevent that excess food waste. So having them, packaged separately with accurate serving sizes, it ensures that you're not going to fill your plate more because, you don't know. A lot of times you go out to have a meal and you're really, really hungry. But just because you haven't eaten for a while and you're really, really hungry doesn't really mean you need to eat more than you would have eaten, just because you waited a little bit longer. But we always think that. And, that's why we reach for these really big things. Like, oh, I haven't eaten all day, and you're filling up your plate with all this stuff. Get halfway through it, and you're just like, yeah, I really didn't eat all that. Because you really didn't. You waited that extra time, but it doesn't mean you actually need to eat more. You should eat more often. Ideally, you don't want to do that to yourself in the first place. But if you do that, be careful not to overeat and splurge. Because a lot of times what you do is you fill your plate, and then you eat half of it, and you waste a lot of it. So we do have some solutions. Okay, let's play with our food. So it's going to take this whole thing about meal prepping. It's taking us out of our comfort zone when it comes to eating because, we've grown up in this environment where we just kind of want to eat what we want, when we want. We have different cravings at different times, but that isn't necessarily the best idea for our body overall, right? So it's easy to find a couple staple recipes and not stray far from them. That's why we tend to eat a lot of burgers, pizza, pasta. Super easy to make, right? Some people are, burritos, tacos, really simple things. They're quick. Everybody likes them, and they're easy to make. But that gets boring. So when you do the meal prep, you'll put more thought into the meals that you're making, and it encourages you to be more creative with the things that you add. So when you're making your own meals, instead of just buying these store-bought things, you can make it exactly the way you think you want to play with it. Okay, so let's do some examples. Let's see what we want to do. Okay, so here's what I want to do. Let's take an inventory of the foods we currently have. So you figure out, what do you have? And then look up some fun recipes that you would like to try. Don't be afraid to go look at some recipes and say, hey, I've been wanting to try this, or I'd like to try this recipe. Make your grocery list. This might be something you can do this weekend to get any ingredients that you don't have yet. And then you get home, you can sort them into, these are the things I want to cook now, and these are the things I'm going to cook later. You can wash and prep your vegetables, of course, and fruits, and you can put them in containers, put in the fridge. And then cook enough meat for 3 or 4 days and place in individual containers for each meal. So let's say I'm going to make a few chicken dishes this week, okay? And maybe I'm going to make a stir fry one day, and I'm going to make maybe some chicken a la orange another day, and maybe mushroom chicken another day. Just different things I'm going to do with chicken. I can just cook all that chicken once. So let's cook all the chicken, and it's all cooked and ready to go. And then when I'm ready to make those things, I just throw in the chicken that's already cooked. So it makes it easier not having to prep and cook chicken, because that takes time. Cooking chicken takes a while, right?
I do that.
What, you do that?
I do that.
Yeah, and it's a smart idea. It really helps to have that ready, because that's one less thing you have to worry about when you're rushed and you're trying to find something to eat. And that'll make it more likely for you to have chicken if it's already pre-cooked, because you look at raw chicken, it's like, oh, do I really want to deal with this right now? But if you have some chicken that's already cooked, it's super easy to heat up, and then heat up with, add some spices or whatever you want to add to it, add some veggies, something like that. That's a lot easier, and that'll keep you from instead going in there and going, gosh, this is going to be too much work. There's that pizza. So again, we're going back to our staples, our pizza, our pasta, our super easy thing, our mac and cheese, whatever, right? So we're going to talk about eggs, because, we know that eggs are a staple to a lot of people's breakfasts, right? And, a lot of times, when we cook eggs, most people, if they do anything fancy with eggs, they order at a diner, or maybe just on the weekends. It's like our special, let's cook an egg time. But there's lots of ways to meal prep with the eggs. So one thing is the classic boiled egg. You want to place the eggs in a pot of cold water. So you don't want to boil the water first. Put them in the cold water. Place the pot on the stove over high heat. Cover it. And then take it off the stove when it just starts to boil. So it's this lightly boiling, take it off, and then you set a timer. So at 3 minutes sitting in that hot pot, it will leave the whites soft and the yolks runny. So if you like your eggs that way, I do that with what I call eggs in a cup. I'll do it that way. Then all I do is crack the eggs in half, throw them in a cup, add a little bit of butter and salt and pepper, and that's my eggs in a cup. And that makes a very fast, simple breakfast. It's the one I grew up with. And of course, if you're not using butter, you can use coconut oil if you like to use that, if you just want a little bit of something. Or a lot of times the salt and pepper is enough for a lot of people. If you want to have it totally, hard boiled, we say, you want 15 minutes. If you cook it over 15 minutes, you're just starting to kill more of the great stuff in eggs. So, try not to let it sit more than 15 minutes, and then you can add your cold water because it's done at that time. So here's what I made. I made egg muffins. So I did this right before our meeting tonight, and I took onions, potatoes, tomatoes, spinach, mushrooms, and bell peppers, and I cut them all up and put them in this tin. It's a muffin tin. So all I did, that's all that's in there is the vegetables. Now, so after this meeting, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna whisk a bunch of eggs together in a bowl, and I'm gonna pour that egg mixture into each of these muffin tins, right? And there's lots of gaps and spaces in there, so I'll put it in the muffin tins. And then I'm going to throw some probably cheese and maybe some breadcrumbs or something on top. You can put on anything you want, maybe salt and pepper. I might add that to the egg mixture itself. I like salt and